Welcome. It's amazing to have you here right now. And I would love just to jump right into it. So let's get started. So before we start, I would love just to introduce to you my good friend, the chat box on the right. I know you have been already kind of heavily interacting with it. We're here, not quite in the millions, but probably in the hundreds. So it's an amazing community. I'm so privileged to be working with Upwork. So really make use of freelancers, consultants, entrepreneurs that are right now in the line here, ask questions, engage with each other in a global community of like-minded individuals. I won't be able to interact with you a lot due to time, but again, feel free to use the chat box. It's yours. Make sure also, just before we start, to get a piece of paper and a pen ready. We're going to do a little bit of a journaling activity in a little while, and most of all, have fun. So let's get started right away. So again, we're talking today about leading with authenticity in a hybrid world. And I'm trying to be as authentic as I can. And I'm spending with you, or we are spending together the next 25 minutes right now. So as you know, things are not any longer the way they used to, right? Things kind of seem upside down, right? The world has changed. The world isn't anymore the way it used to. We now live in a hybrid world between that which has been this traditional way of making money, going to the office, going through the slog, and a new and bright future, a distinct future, a different future, but nonetheless extremely bright and inspiring. We are experiencing right now, in my point of view, an incredible seismic shift, a key turn point in history, a moment that we will probably remember when companies changed their perception about the business world, about how they believed how things need to get done. That's a company, but also the freelance world, the freelance movement, ourselves as consultants and entrepreneurs. We also changed our approach, the way what's dear to us, how we feel we want to work towards our dreams and what we want to make happen. So there's this incredible shift happening right now. Some of you have been on Upwork for many, many years. And I know, we have the cream of the crop here right now on the line. So it's amazing to interacting with you. And some of us only have been on Upwork for a few months, but we have one thing in common. We all have that courage, that grit, and that vision to really wanting to live on our terms and leading without limits. Now, we are Upwork top performing freelancers. And by the way, we're probably the ones as well that kind of helping this amazing company that I'm so privileged working with to moving towards a successful, even more successful future. So well done on all the performances that you have and myself as well provided. And we are shaping together the success story of Upwork, this amazing company. My hope for this session is to provide genuine aha moments, to inspire you, and to really, for us all, establish a sense of community. Again, we are here together to support each other, to grow, to evolve. So let's do that together on and beyond Upwork. The question, though, is how do we raise the thought leadership through authenticity? How do we actually do that and provide real value in the world? It's a question that we need to pose, right? We all want to feel useful. We want to be confident about our future. We want to have plenty of options, to have freedom of choice, do what we want and when we want it, right? So I encourage all of us right now to really rise together as a strong community and to stepping into the shoes as a leader as we are, to leading the way, right? So let's do that together. Now, my name is Seb Wichmann. To introduce myself, I could describe myself in many different ways, but I'm a learning and development specialist. I've worked over the years with high-profile clients such as Adobe and Siemens and Vodafone, Johnson & Johnson, Rolls-Royce, and many, many, many more. I've delivered the interventions globally throughout 35 countries. I've done so with 150 plus of those. And I've delivered a combined value of 16.5 million US dollars, helping enterprise clients, Fortune 500 companies to build the next tier of future leaders, as well as to retain top talents. I'm also a certified business consultant and a seasoned life and productivity coach. I usually work with people like yourself, entrepreneurs, consultants, freelancers. I've done so in the thousands, online and offline, helping you to create this compelling vision towards a meaningful future, helping with productivity shift and really to moving the commercial business needle, so to speak. I've also won the prestigious Super Coach Awards in 2014 for outstanding performances in a leadership capacity. I've collaborated with global thought leaders, people who stood alongside public figures such as Sir Richard Branson, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, and many, many more. Now, but most of all, and that's the point here I want to make, I'm a human being and I have a real story. I got bullied at school, and you may be able to relate. And I remember walking through the entrance doors of that school on a day-to-day basis. I was humiliated and really in agony. And because of that, I didn't attend school for 7 weeks. I left Germany in 2005. I'm German, and decided to move to Australia, or to go to Australia, where I live right now. But I feel utterly and honestly totally lost in just being by myself without family. Not an easy time. I'm afraid of heights. I do it anyway, but I'm extremely scared of it. I climb a little bit, but I'm afraid. I love the nature. I love to hike, especially if I do that with people. I like them to be silently observing the nature rather than talking all day long, so that I can as well enjoy some moments of tranquility in my busy life. And I get super excited to holding this fresh piece of juicy fruit in my hand that the sun has been growing for the past few months, that I'm about to shamelessly enjoy. So what I really want to say here, and this is a point I want to make, and the theme of the session is I'm a human being, right? So are you. And so are all the clients that we're interacting with on a day-to-day basis. So we all have real problems. We all have real stories. And I really want us to use that theme of the next 20 minutes or so and keep that on top of mind as we talk about the next steps. So to introduce the session, finally, how did I move from humiliation at school to being lost in a foreign country, not even speaking the language, to now working with some of the biggest corporations in the world? How did this work? And for me, it's truthfully about two things. It's about authenticity and it is about leadership. And so here are the topics for today. Topic number one, we will talk about vision and how you're able to create a purpose-led vision that inspires you. Number two, we talk about resilience and how you're able to, through shifts in energy, lift your productivity to new heights. And number three is we talk about relationships, this external piece of communication with the client for us to stay with them or for them to stay with us long term. So when I went to Australia and I felt lost, without vision and aimless, I just felt like a piece of string just dangling in the wind. And you may be able to relate. You know, life pushed me from the right to the left, from the left to the right, because I was aimless. I had no vision. And you may be able to relate in a time when you didn't have a vision and a time when you had a vision, right? And they are two distinctly different moments, the way we feel about it, right? We are, and listen carefully, we are the only species on Earth that is capable to deliberately think and imagine. And this is incredible, right? And I'll tell you in a second why. All other beings, like animals, for example, they act on instinct alone. And the reason why this is so important is because they are unable to actively shape or actively reshape their trajectory, their aim in life because of that. They can't change their circumstances. They can't change their results. We can. Unfortunately, human beings, we use very often, or more often than not, this amazing gift to our detriment in disempowering ways. And so I want to show you right now really how to use the power of the brain and the mind to create an inspiring vision. I wanted you to realize that the mind and body, or mind and emotions, are very closely interlinked. Whether or not you really believe that there is a poison snake by your foot, or whether or not there really is in reality a poison snake by your foot, the mind and body react in the exact same way. In fact, the neurologists and the synapses fire off in the exact same way, right? And we want to make use of this inability for the body and mind to differentiate between that which is imagined and that which is real in distinct ways. So this is how we're going to do this. So let's imagine this is your goal. Let's imagine that your goal is to move into a beautiful home. That is actually my vision. I would love to live in a home that inspires me. I do that right now as well, but I love to live in a home with view upon the ocean, right? Imagine that. And that is incredibly inspiring for me. And so I want to introduce to you right now a 5-step process that would allow you to stay steadfast on your vision to really making anything happen, right? As we work with the mind the way it needs to happen. So number one, there's a 5-step process. Number one, we want to have an image, right? So I drove around. There aren't many hills where I live. So I drove around in my little car and looked at a hillside, and there are only 2. And I researched a little bit and all that because I want to have a view upon the ocean a little bit, right? So I created this picture. You can either create a mock-up or make a picture and really have something that creates a visceral reaction in your body to let the hair follicles stand upright, so to speak, right? It needs to emotionally engage you, and I'll tell you in a second why. Number 2, you got to have a time frame. Now, we know time frames are important, but there's a difference between having a 2-day time frame or having a 10 years time frame, right? So we want to make sure the time frame is realistic in some way, and then as well challenging on the other, okay? Number 3, we want to make sure that the goal or the vision you put out is emotionally engaging, and this is the key. Just pay attention here. Most goals, they aren't emotionally engaging. Now, I'm saying here, as you can read, my goal is I'm standing on the terrace, looking out at the ocean, feeling the sun rays on my skin. Can you see that I'm stepping fully into this vision, right? I'm not saying I will have or have done. No, there's a future date on, and I'm stepping into the emotion as if I'm experiencing this right now. And this is when we slip into the mind, where we say, the mind cannot differentiate between that which is imagined and that which is real. What do you think happens if I fully already right now step into this vision? What do you think happens with the mind? Well, the mind already associates with that having happened, and we get more of it. This is how it works, right? Number 4, we want to make sure that there is an end step. And the end step is me standing on the terrace or at the terrace, looking out at the ocean, feeling the sun rays on the skin. I didn't say when I'm turning the keys for the first time or when I'm signing the contract. No, the end step of this vision of me moving in my home is to standing on the terrace. And number 5, you got to review it. Most people, they just don't see results after 2 weeks and they give up. You got to review the goal after you woke up and just before you go to bed. Okay? Really important. So let's do a little journaling activity, and let's make sure that we engage here in the chat function as well. And I give you 1 minute now, and I want you to answer the following questions. Create your vision for yourself right now. If you could wave a magic wand, what is your vision that you are excited about working towards? This is a piece that the house that I want to move into, right? And 2, what is the end step that lets you know the vision has been accomplished? Number 2, take 1 minute right now, and once the end step is finished, write it down and share it with all of us in the chat box. Ready, go. 1 minute we have. So what is your vision that you are excited about? Become clear about that overarching vision first. And then ask yourself, what is the end step? For me, it is when I'm standing on the terrace, looking out at the ocean and feeling the rays of the sun on my skin. What is it for you? What is your vision? And when you're ready, just share it in the chat box. And I want to see lots of responses. To help as many clients as possible. Amazing. That is amazing. Exactly. We want to help we want to be of service. Nice. I like it. What else do we have? I'll give you 10 more seconds. Let me move on. Get a new truck and camper. Nice. Working to buy a house. Beautiful. I like it. Keep this going. It's just a start, right? Keep this going. Well done. Very done. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Now, number 2 is resilience, right? We're now moving from the mind into the body. And we're talking about how do we lift productivity? How do we actually do this, right? Now, I want you to realize that the mind, the vision, is the starting point. The body is the extension of that vision of the mind, right? And we want to use this to execute our mouth, our hands, our feet. I want you to see those parts as being one to make your dreams come true. When we talk about resilience, what we really talk about is the ability to overcome obstacles, right? So for example, if suddenly a bunch of clients approach you and saying, oh, within 24 hours and say, wow, I want to work with you, and you have 6 of those, you probably get a bit overwhelmed. There's stress coming up, right? There's a heightened workload, obviously. So, but how do we allow ourselves and permit ourselves to still perform well? Now, it's a great obstacle to have, obviously, but nonetheless, it's dangerous for most people. We all get tripped up on this, right? So how do we manage this? And I want to share with you right now 2 of my main, I call it human habits, to stay with a theme that is of prime importance to me and very, very relevant. So here we go. Number 1, you want to be an elite athlete. Now, what I mean by elite athlete is, if you imagine now being an Olympic athlete for the moment, who has been preparing yourself for Tokyo for the past 4 years, you had to marshal all your energy towards this vision of winning a gold medal, right? You pushed everything else aside. I see also myself as an elite athlete. My aim, though, is to perform to the best of my abilities for the client. And I've seen here a great comment on this as well, right? And I speak about the way I schedule sleep, the way I look at nutritional intake, the way I physically exercise in the morning and sweat, the way I meditate, my morning routine, and all of that is all geared towards me serving my clients the best way I can. And I suggest all of us to do the same and to think about this. It's like, remember marshalling the energy. Remember the time when you were younger, when you had this magnifying glass, you tried to burn a little leaf or a piece of paper and marshal the rays of the sun to be able to do that. That's what we're talking about here, right? Number 2, it's about energy management. What do I mean by this? Now, if we break down energy to its fundamentals, energy is all we have got. There's nothing more than this. Time and energy is incredibly important. And just like a battery, we need it to perform. We need energy to perform. So energy is directly proportionate to the output we can achieve. It's a codependency, right? So if you're tired, you got to rest, you got to rejuvenate. But how do we do that? How do we manage our energy levels best to sustain performance? So let's talk about this a little bit. Now, there's energy outflow, like through work, through having difficult conversations and all that drains us. And then there's energy inflow, right? Where we gain and rejuvenate ourselves. Now, I want us right now to become aware about activities that replenish our energy besides sleep, right? Now, my number 1 activity for replenishing energy is through mindfulness activities. I do that through the morning routines. I do that in the evening. I get up at about 4 to 5 a.m. I work out again. I sweat. I meditate, usually on the beach, right? And then I start my day at 7:30 a.m. in the US, usually. What is it for you? Is that when you walk through the nature, when you walk through a park, when you have a conversation with a dear friend, when you get a massage? What is it for you? So let's have a think about this a little bit. So chat box, our good friends, let's again get there. So what is your number 1 activity that you want to integrate into your day-to-day and which will make the biggest difference in the way you recharge? And I give you right now 30 seconds. Have a think about this. What replenishes you? And when you're ready, again, share it with all of us in the chat box so we can all help each other. Ready, go. What is this activity that when you do it, it just replenishes you. You feel invigorated. You feel recharged. What is that activity? Nice, taking plenty of breaks, activities outside, daily yoga. I love yoga. Very good. Great. I'll give you 10 more seconds, and then we move on. Limiting social media usage, a big one. Crafting, nice. Hiking, I love hiking. Good job, great. Keep this going, right? It's a good conversation to have. Now, number 3, we talk about now relationships. We now talked about the vision, we talked about the body, and now let's talk about the communication outside of us, right? How do we nurture our clients' longevity for them to really stay with us long term? How do we do that? Now, we don't have to marry our clients, right? But there are similarities between a marriage and our client relationship, right? And so all relationships are emotional in nature, right? Meaning that we want to feel about each other in a certain way. This is super important, okay? And I want to share with you right now 3 tips that I found is of immense help to my practice. So let's have a think about this to cultivate long-term relationship. Number 1 is crossing the bridge. Now, we want to move away from this transactional to this relational client relationship building, right? We don't want to focus on the money, right? Money is a byproduct of an excellent, exquisite customer service, right? So our priority only is to do one thing and one thing only, which is to move the client as quickly as possible from point A, where the client has a certain struggle and a challenge, to point B, where the client wants to be, have a certain result that the client desires to be. The bridge in between is not even you, it's a process. It's the way we ask questions. Number 1. Number 2, over-communicate. Over-communicate. We must build trust quickly. Now, us over-communicating helps the clients to quickly find trust in the investment into you, right? Ask yourself, when you invested last a lot of money, how did you feel about it? Were you scared? Were you afraid? Were you hoping it works out? This is how your client feels, right? So you want to make the client feel as soon as possible on day 1, trusting and building rapport and all that via email, face-to-face, so over-communicate. Number 3, don't say yes. And what I mean by this is that I only say yes to 70%, roughly 70% of clients that really want to work with me. Now, I do believe deeply that I wouldn't serve myself or Upwork or my client the best way possible if I would say yes to all the projects, right? I believe that I rather refer and I rather be able to, for you to really provide an exquisite service and me doing a fairly good job. And there are things that you do much better than I do in certain areas, right? So we want to really understand and stay close to our values. We want to stay close to who we want to serve, and we want to understand who we don't want to serve, and then say no if it's time to say no. This is how we serve and create win-win situations. So to do another chat box activity with our dear friend and to really share that with us globally right now, I would love you to type into the chat box right now, which of these 3 tips are you committed to integrating when dealing with your client next? And type in the number. Is it number 1, crossing the bridge? Is it number 2, over-communicate? Or number 3, don't say yes? So here you go. Let's see what we have got here. What are you committed to integrating into your day-to-day? Number 1, 2, or 3? Okay, some number 2s coming up, some number 3s coming up, some number 1s. Very good. Great. Again, keep the conversation going. Well done. Good job. Great. Thank you. Now, to come slowly to a close here, we have this unique ability to leverage off each other. And we talked about this in the beginning, right? We have certain knowledge, we have experience, we have skills, we have expertises. Globally, we are millions of freelancers, consultants, and entrepreneurs in Upwork. We want to harness this. And a fitting theme here is a rising tide raises all boats, right? And you know what I mean by this. This is what communities are about, right? So the question I want to pose here is, how do we together build a freelance movement? How do we do that? And I want to refer you and encourage you strongly to listen to an earlier session that's an amazing person hosted, Fran Murphy. He's Upwork's VP of Community and Talent Success. And he shared his ideas of how he feels and what his thoughts are around and ideas of how to build community, how to harness this freelance movement on Upwork, on and beyond Upwork, and very inspiring talks. So listen to this. It is all about upskilling, growing, serving yourself, your clients, Upwork, the best way you can, and really for us all to become the best version of ourselves that we can be. And again, Upwork is already starting this conversation of how to do that on Upwork and beyond. But why wait? So let's do that right now, to have the conversation about how do we upskill ourselves. And here, this is how I would love to end, is ask yourself and write down in the chat box 1 to 2 sentences of what would you like to see in terms of community on and beyond Upwork that supports you, helps you to grow, and helps you to upskill yourself. Let's just take a moment here and let me finish off. How do you want to feel supported? Where do you want to grow? And how do you feel you want to upskill yourself on and beyond Upwork? That is a big question, so I just elaborate on this a little bit. And as we do, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for your time. As I mentioned in the beginning, my hope was to inspire you and to provide genuine aha moments and to really establish some clarity for ways to better your leadership through authenticity on and beyond Upwork as being a human. So thank you so much. I love to connect with you, so feel free to reach out. You see my email or via LinkedIn as well on the screen. Thank you so much, and I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Take care.
Yeah.